Hello, brave awakened ones. Veronica of Higher Realm Holistics here, certified holistic integrative health nurse, medical empathic intuitive, spiritual counselor and guide, Usui Reiki master, energy healer, and author of the children's book How the Caterpillar Flew. Thank you, subscribers and Patreons and supporters. I want to touch on this subject, and I picked this very gloomy, chilly day in South Florida to do it because I just love the rain. I find it very soothing. I love the sound, especially being on the water. It's my favorite sound and favorite smell of the ocean ever. Okay, I touched on this subject briefly yesterday, and some people thought I meant it metaphorically and not literally. I meant it literal. It's very literal. And I'm going to put it to you the way my oversoul put it to me, okay? When it came to the topic of vampirism and cannibalism. And the reason why this is coming up right now is because of where we are. I'm not just pulling this topic out of thin air to, I don't know, get clicks or whatever the heck you want to say. It's because it is very relevant for what's going on right now with the things that are going to be exposed. They've been exposed, we know, but it's been more underground. And the energies are lending themselves right now, not only to deal with our own conscious and subconscious, but also the conscious and subconscious of Gaia itself, herself, when it comes to no more duality and everything being up front. Because there's no more curtain or veil to hide behind, so all these things are going to come up front. And, those of us who've been digging deep for a while know of this. But there are many who are even light workers who are just grappling with this whole thing. And it's one thing to see videos online talking about it and be like, oh my God, it's disgusting, blah, blah, I wish them death, and all this kind of stuff, and just talking about it from that point of view. And there's a totally different thing experiencing it. And I will talk to you from the point of experiencing it and also dealing with others who have experienced it. And I've known for a very long time that I was put in that position, that I chose for my soul to come through in that position and experience it so I could help those who have experienced it, because my soul, as a light worker and the way my soul is created, was strong enough to withstand it and survive it, so I could pull others through it and help them survive it and flourish and take it and turn it around and flourish from it. And on top of that, forgiving the predators that did it to them in the first place. Because, again, you're forgiving them for you, for the sake of your soul, and for the sake of the other souls that you need to help release from the trauma of it all. Okay? So the way it was put to me by my oversoul was, when it comes to cannibalism and vampirism, if you eat of the flesh and drink of the blood of your own kind, you will be consumed by the very darkness that you are so desperate to escape. Again, if you eat of the flesh and drink of the blood of your own kind, you will be consumed by the very darkness that you are so desperate to escape. Now, those are the words that came from my oversoul to just put into a synopsis of what will happen to those souls that partake in vampirism and cannibalism, which we know is very much going on, with the Illuminati, with the Cabal, and that seems so far away. But then, that's on one level, but the same shit goes on in the house next door. Now I'm going to share with you my own experience and how I experienced cannibalism and vampirism as a child. The first time I experienced it, I was 5 years old. And that kept going on through my teens. And it was my mom. I freely admitted in the past the abuse. I experienced intense abuse from my mother and my uncle growing up. And I know I've touched on this before, because the first time I saw the demon that was in my mom, and I know how it got into her too. Again, you have to be in a weakened state for that entity to attach itself to you. And she was, her 4th grade math teacher tried to rape her, and what he did to her, she would do to me. And it very much involved cannibalism and vampirism, because I don't call what she did to me as beatings or anything. They were attacks. Whenever she would attack me, she would always say, when my grandmother would try to pull her off, it's like, enough, enough, enough. She'd say, no, I'm not going to stop until I see her bleed. I want to taste her blood. And she used to bite me all the time. I still have bite marks. She used to bite me all the time. I would be tied up naked and tortured. And my younger sister, you know, we made amends many, many years ago, but she was like, I never, she goes, it's like I grew up in a different household. I'd hear you screaming, and I'd see Dee, my older sister, that's not her name, I always use just letters. I'd see Dee crying by the door and banging, and grandma trying to open the door, but I heard you screaming, but I never paid attention. My younger sister was extremely, you know, she was very selfish back then, but now she's not anymore, and we're best of friends. She's like, I'd hear you screaming, but I was just busy playing with your toys, which is what she used to do. She used to snatch my stuff while I was being tortured in another room. So yeah, I was literally tortured. And she would bite me all the time. Again, I have bite marks on me, and she would say she wants to taste my blood. She wants to taste my blood. And how I was able to forgive her, even as she was doing it, even before, I did not know what happened to her until I was in my 20s. And then she was just talking while making breakfast. My older sister and I were dropping off our kids so we could go to work, and she was just talking casually because there was a news report of a little girl in 4th grade who was attacked by her math teacher, and he used to stalk her, which the same thing happened to my mom. And we were just like, what did she just say? And she's like, yeah, and just kept cooking and everything, and described the whole horrific scene, what happened to her. Like, that's why she used to bite me and talk about tasting my blood. That demon's in her. But even while I was going through those, and not to say I didn't try to fight as much as I could to get away, I didn't lay there and say, here, eat me, you know, and it's not to say I didn't have major resentment towards her, you know. I don't like her touching me still. I don't like her kissing me. It makes me cringe whenever she's like, now she's, you know, because she's old, and, you know, now she needs us. It's, oh, hi, baby. And it makes me cringe because I've never heard the words I love you from my mother ever. Never. Never, never, never. Those words never came out of her mouth to me or my sisters. Never. I've heard her say it to my granddaughter. I've heard her say it to the grandkids, but then she'd turn around and say, she used to say to my daughter and my son, but then she'd turn around and say, yeah, right, the minute you get older, you're going to hate this ugly old black woman. She, you know, so it's like that darkness is still very much in her. So I dealt with that on my own, okay? And it was about always wanting to taste my blood, and literally I've had my flesh ripped off by her biting me on my chest. It was always biting my chest. Oh my goodness, wow. That's a humongous bird that just passed by. It was like wingspan this long. Any which ways. So yeah, that was my experience growing up. That was my experience growing up. And I've mentioned many times, I worked in a lockdown adolescent psych facility. My first degree is in abnormal adolescent psych. And I've counseled many kids who've been through satanic rituals, who experienced those things, who, you know, had to deal with seeing their own siblings being murdered in front of their eyes, you know. And then as a nurse, when I worked in special needs, when I worked in nursery, when I worked in pediatrics, we've had children come in who were tortured. I had a 1-year-old baby who was left limp and paralyzed from the amount of torture he went through. And I had to take nails and shit that were dug into his toes and fingers. Try doing that, okay? Try having a beautiful 1-year-old baby and you're yanking nails that were hammered into his foot. I had to do that in New York City. But I had the constitution to do that, and I was also able to listen to those kids' stories and help those kids and care for those babies because of what I went through and the fact that I survived what I went through. Okay? There are many people who could not handle any of that. There are many people who ran crying and was like, I can't do this case. Oh no, you do the intake. I can't cancel this kid, because they didn't experience it. But for me, it was like I was able to keep a straight face. I was able to say, okay, now what are you choosing? Are you going to choose to become your predator, or are you going to choose to rise above that? And that's the first question I'd tell the kid. I don't care if the kid's 10 years old. I would say that to them, because I remember looking at my mom when I was 5, and I told her, I will never be you. And that was right before I went unconscious and had 3 of my ribs fractured and my bladder bruised. So, and I didn't think I was going to live. But I had to get those words out. No matter what, I had to get those words out, because I felt like it was for my soul. Like I had to make a soul decision right then and there. So that's my experience when it comes to cannibalism and vampirism. So that is how it could happen in the house next door, because everybody thought my mom was the sweetest woman on the face of the earth because she's so pretty and she's so petite and la 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 and so French and la la woo woo woo. You know, so to this day, nobody knows how horrific. You know, I had to read one of her neighbors when he, you know, had the nerve to come up on me and was like, you know, oh, you should do this and do that. I said, you have no idea. No idea what I had to go through and the amount of strength it takes for me to come and take care of someone who tried to kill me so many times. And he was just like, shut up. He's the sweetest thing. He just texted him. His wife just texted me last night. It totally shut them up, because, you know, easy to criticize when you're not the one there and not understanding the amount of energy. And it takes energy. It takes strength. Are you strong enough, light workers? Here's the question for you. Are you strong enough to forgive those people that are being exposed? Because remember, you're the front line. You're finding out first for a reason. You're finding out first for a reason because you're supposed to be strong enough to transmute all that energy into love to help the muggles, the earthians, who are going to come to. And all this is happening from now, 2019. Again, the cleanup time, 2019 to 2022. You know, I think it's till the end of 2022. Somewhere in 2022. I don't know. I don't know exactly when in 2022 this cleanup period is finally going to be completed. But all these things, when it comes to trials and exposing and people being, you know, brought out into the open, it's not just going to be on that grand scale where it's politicians and celebrities and shit like that. It'll be the person next door to you, because there's nowhere to hide anymore. That veil is over. It'll be your next door neighbor, or the guy across the street, or your best friend who you thought, you know, was baby. And I heard this story and I was like, oh, your best friend who, you know, was like, oh, I'll babysit your baby, and you walk into the room and they're molesting your child. You know, are you ready to deal with that? Are you ready to deal with that? You know, and yeah, cannibalism does exist. And here's why my oversoul said, and it was shown to me a while ago by Thoth also. Think of the 7 Hermetic principles and the law of polarity, okay? And like, here's the neutral state, 50%, and also the law of 1. You need that 51% of service to others in order to ascend. And those who taste the blood and eat the flesh of their kind, you know, they have made that choice. Like, you could do a lot of terrible shit. You could rob, steal, and cheat and still have the opportunity to turn back. Still have the opportunity. Greatest example, Trump. And there's a lot of people out there who go like, oh, I can't be on your channel anymore because you said something positive about Trump. Wake the fuck up. Grow up. Okay? Get over it. Get over it. I had to. I had the man in my face, literally in my face, 2 feet away from me, and I was yelling at him. And that was just a couple of years ago. Okay? Because I grew up in a Trump New York. All right, and I knew what he was about. And yeah, he would pimp himself out for anything. You know, it was just about being a billionaire. You know, women and cars. You know, and mansions and gold on my floor and on my ceiling. He's the epitome of narcissism, of greed. The oligarch. He was all about the greed. But something shocked the shit out of him. Something shocked the shit out of him. All right, shook him right into place, right into the true reality of what's really going on. And it's like, okay, bro, do you want to taste the blood? Drink of the blood and eat of the flesh, and lose your light. Because once you go down that road, taste, one time. Once you go down that road, that is it. Your soul's, because you have to keep doing it in order to maintain your light. That's why, think of the vampire movies. That is why they say it's a never-ending thirst. How many times have you heard that in every vampire movie? It's a thirst that cannot be quenched. It is a never-ending thirst. And this is true. It is a never-ending thirst, whether it's cannibalism, because you're still eating blood, cannibalism, or vampirism. It's all the one and the same to me, because you are doing it to steal somebody else's light, because you decided it's better to steal somebody else's light. It's easier to do that. It's more rewarding than to do it your damn self, than to put in the work yourself. You'd rather just steal it from somebody else. And that is that is the mortal sin of all sins. That is when you're, okay, that, and another thing, that is why those people fight so hard and are so terrified of death. They're so terrified of death because they know the very darkness that they're fighting against, it's the very darkness that's going to consume them, meaning cremation, meaning you lost your light, that's it. You're trying to survive off of somebody else's light. You cannot survive off of somebody else's light. Your soul cannot survive off of somebody else's light. So once this fleshy body is gone and goes kaput, your soul just no longer exists. Literally no longer exists. Because you cannot, it's like running out of oil. As the car runs out of oil, you're burning the oil. You ever heard of running on fumes? You're on empty, and you're like, oh my God, I gotta make it to the gas station. You're running on empty. I've done that. And your car's just gliding into the station. Okay, but then it stops right before getting there. That's them. That's their soul. Okay, so it's about crossing that line. That's why it's, I think you get like this, the seventh level. And everything they do, of course, is a bastardization of the true universal divine laws. Everything's topsy-turvy. It's topsy-turvy world. Everything they do is topsy-turvy, and it's a bastardization of the divine laws, the divine principles, okay? When it comes to Hermetics, if anyone knows about Hermetics, it's like you have 7 principles. Within those principles, there's 7 levels. And within those 7 levels, there's another 7 levels. And that's the elevation of the soul along the degrees, okay? And you have the negative and the positive, losing the light, gaining the light, okay? And the law of correspondence, you go back and forth, polarity back and forth, you know, depending on how you apply your principles and what you're doing, okay? Now, they apply those 7 principles, but to nefarious ends, to their own end, actually. The reason why they fight leaving their body so much is because they know once they leave their body, that's it. Their souls are gone. It is, think of, is it Dogma? I think that's the film. The Quentin Tarantino, is it Quentin Tarantino? There's a film called Dogma, with Matt Damon and the other guy. And Selma Hayek's in it. Chris Rock's in it. And Chris Rock's the prophet. And then you have the two, Selma Hayek is a muse. And Alanis Morissette, the singer, she plays, Alanis Morissette, I think that's her name. She plays God. And what happens to the other angel? Who decides to do all the murders and everything, he decides to And the name I can't remember is the one who I actually met in person in the city one day. I just can't believe that the tall guy who, let me see, Ben Affleck. Yes, Ben Affleck. He plays the angel that ends up having God blow him up and, go into, it's better to not exist than to exist this way with this never-ending thirst and that cannot be quenched. That's what happens to their souls. They're created. They're just absolved back into source. They're not giving. That's it. They're done. There's no crossing that line, which is why they push so hard for you to cross that line. When they, think of Justin Bieber. Let's get down to it. Justin Bieber got to the point where they're like, okay, bro, you could taste the blood and eat of the flesh, and you could be as big as a lot of these big, hitting billions performers are if you do this. Justin hightailed his ass out and ran. Okay? Because he's like, I am not crossing that line. He knew in his heart there's no going back. Some are so stupid and are so, it's not even naive. It's you have gone so far, and your soul has to lose a certain amount of light before you're able to cross that line. You have to, and that's through narcissism, selfishness. You have to be, way below that, to the 50% mark to be able to cross that damn line where you would do something like that. Trump couldn't do it. He had lost enough light where they thought, okay, we could push him one step over, and if he does this, that's it. He's part of us. When he got to that point on Epstein's Island, he said, no, I can't. The same way that Dutch banker who did all those horrific things, actually did worse stuff than Trump. Look it up. Dutch banker, whatever. Dutch banker turns down the cabal or some shit like that. I forgot what the video is called. But he got to that point because he was so stuck in the glitz of it. The women, the money, all that kind of stuff. But what made him turn back is his children. Same thing that made Trump turn back, his children. Where he got to that point where eat of the flesh, drink of the blood, cross over, and the world is yours. You're in the inner circle. He said no, ran back. And he said, I don't care if that costs me my life. It's not worth my eternal soul. Okay? Now when it comes to your everyday vampire and cannibal, same thing applies. It's just, unfortunately, for like a soul like my mom's, she just, your soul makes that decision. She just could not make that decision. She couldn't make that decision. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh my God, that's so not fair. That's so not fair. Sure it is. Because I've met plenty of kids who went through what I went through and worse, who made that choice at a very early age and said, I'm not that. I will never be that. We had an entire unit full of kids who turned around, became molesters themselves. Okay? And even a child molester can stop and turn around, but they're pretty close. They're right there when it comes to having their souls just be cremated and that's it. They're pretty damn close. They've crossed over, they're ready to cross over. Wouldn't take much to cross them over. That's taking the innocence from the innocents. So once you've crossed that line, that's a line that cannot be turned back. And then that's a line that's extremely difficult to turn over. It's going to take a lot of lifetimes for you to undo that mess. When you get to the point of molestation and abuse and stuff like that on an innocent soul. And it doesn't have to be a child. It could be a full-grown adult that you're abusing and stuff like that. It's going to take a lot. But once you are into cannibalism and vampirism, your soul is gone. You might as well call it a day. It's being cremated. It's over. That is why they will do anything, and they're terrified of death, because they know what's waiting for them is not a higher level. It is not going to bliss. That's not what awaits them. What awaits them is non-existence. And they're having so much fun here, thinking they're in control here, so they're going to do whatever it takes to stay here. Okay? Spirit cooking involved. They don't have to be the one to kill the kid and kill the person or do the abuse and stuff like that, but you still drink of that blood. That's it. So all those, who are there trying to be fake idols, fake goddesses, ugh, the performers, trying to be fake goddesses, on stage having people praise them, ugh. I pity them. Let's put it that way. I have pity towards them. That's how I feel. It's pity. It's pity. Like, oh, you ignorant fool. But it is not, again, it is not for us to hold a resentment in our heart. And it's not for us to exact revenge. And that's another thing. It is not for us to do those things, because we did not create that soul. You didn't create them. Source creator. And we're all of source. Okay? Even those who do that, we're all of source. Okay? Even those, I had somebody make comment about people who are soulless. They're still of source, because nothing exists outside of source creator. It's impossible. Nothing exists outside of source creator. They think they're doing that, which is a delusion of the mind, but because of free will, you're allowed to be as delusional as you'd like to be. But nothing can possibly exist outside of source creator. That's why you're just reabsorbed. It's just, okay, reabsorb it. It's like, you ever see like a glass maker make something, if they break it, what do? They melt it down back again, and they put it back into something else. They make something else out of it. Think of it that way. Okay? Hope I covered everything that I was guided to cover. Yeah, so I'm doing this to help light workers, for you guys to prepare for all this stuff to come out, to not be consumed by rage. Okay? Because it is difficult. I'm not shaking my finger at you. It is difficult not to be consumed by rage. Also, to be just consumed by sadness. I'm not going to say there aren't days that I didn't cry after work, when I was working in those places. Of course. You just feel it's like, oh my goodness. But then you pull yourself together, because okay, this soul came to me because I'm here to help them and do whatever for them. Whether I've had plenty of dead bodies, kids that came in. So it's blessing them and doing what you can for them at that time. And I've had to deal with the abusers face to face, and the molesters face to face, besides my own, the ones of the children that I thought I was helping and protecting, face to face. So yeah, it's for us not to stoke the fires of anger and revenge, because revenge is not yours. It is not yours. I've had people tell me, oh, why don't you go after this? Why didn't you just let your mother die when you found her, because of all the stuff she did to you? I said, because revenge is not mine. Oh, why didn't you do this to this person, do that to that person after what they did to you? I have never sought revenge on anybody, because I've always delighted in sitting back and watching their own karma do whatever it is it needs to do to them. And let me take that back. I'm not gonna lie, there were times where I cringe. I'm like, oh my God. And Source Creator, the universe, always found a way to let me know. Always. I always find out what happened to that person who did whatever to me. And I'm just like, dang, God, really? You had to do them in like that? But I was like, okay, that was theirs. But that also keeps me in line too. And knowing that, oh, don't fuck around, because you know what? It's that powerful. It's that powerful. It could be 10 years from now. Could be the next lifetime. Just know, like, say Papa Bush, when he passed or was executed, whatever the freak, I don't care. You know, as he passed, you know, we're like, oh no, he should have went to jail. He should have did it. And I thought that too, but I'm like, you know what? His soul is decimated. It's gone. And it can never come back to horrify anybody. And that's what we're doing in Earth. That's what we're doing here on Gaia. Cleaning out those souls by, you know, so we could have heaven on Earth, because their time is up. They're going to fight tooth and nail like a rat in a glue trap. Ugh. It's going to fight tooth and nail, not to die. But it's going to die. You know, that's it. It's going to no longer exist. All right? Okay, back to sunshines and rainbows. All right, everyone. If anyone's interested in a session, you can go to higherrealmholistics.com, link below. DivineYoungSouls.blogspot.com is my blog that I've had since 2012. And also my book signing for How the Caterpillar Flew. Don't have my book on me. A Journey of Self-Discovery, Awaken the Hidden Potential in Your Young One. I'll be in Kindle. That's in South Miami this Saturday for my book signing. And, you know, story time and fun time with the kids, with a beautiful magical forest stage that they set up for me. Barnes & Noble. That's at 11:30 to like around 1, I think. So got that going on. And webinars, Healing Reiki Circle, Tapping webinar, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Kabbalion webinar. We're on part 3 already. That's on Saturday. That's on Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, and if you're interested in purchasing those webinars, recordings, or meditations, you can go to my website also, higherrealmholistics.com. And my book is sold on all major online book retailers. Look it up. Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, Blackwell, whatever. It's all over the place. Or you can purchase it on my website for an autographed copy. Okay? Peace, Lady B out. We already got this, okay? We already have the victory. Bye.